I was doing a little bit of research on cars, diesel cars. I wanted to know the prices of, what's required for doing a fitness test, and these four links came out. So there's one from Facebook, there's one from Acco Drive, there's one from a media publication house Mint, and then there's one from Policy Bazaar. By scraping through these thumbnails and meta titles, whatever is getting picked up by AI overviews. This is Google's AI overviews. I choose the first one and I see a independent house creating content on Facebook. And as you can see, I'm not logged into Facebook, so I don't use Facebook as such. But yet, this answer which I had was answered by an independent house which is posting content on Facebook. It's important to understand over here is the channel on which you are posting content regularly is immaterial. Again, I'll try and harp this point again. So this is my phone screenshot. You can see I really like podcasts of few genres, and this podcast was introduced to me by a former colleague of mine, Janet. Not this exact podcast, but on the concept of East versus West and fascinating stories to tell about Janet. Someday I will end up making a video on her, but to think of it that any sort of content you are producing, you are ultimately doing a publish, like quite literally every time when you are uploading something, and the final step is always publish in all the different platforms that you see. So you are ultimately in the publishing space. And if you think of it, who are the oldest people or the oldest professions who are from the publishing space? Authors, poets. And what do they have? A loyal fan base, an audience. And sometimes the holy grail of a business which is able to understand the concept of publishing and has been publishing great valuable content can lead to something like this. And I know there's a high chance that I've misspelled the great Thomas Muller's name because my spellings are extremely bad, but this is real Thomas Muller commenting on a digital IP by Athletic Interest. Now this is the real deal. Imagine for an artist, if you are thinking yourself, as a essentially an artist, to survive in the digital space, you're creating something which is very valuable so that a dedicated audience comes and watches whatever you are creating. It's like the same for an author, for an artist, for a poet. These two examples is, if you notice, like profound pricing approximately. I'm doing some research on some LLM tools, and I see that clearly Instagram is something which is getting cited over here. Again, I am asking, what is this brand strategy that Nestle has employed, and it's giving me a detailed description of that. So all of these answers is coming in the form of content written or videographed or audio recorded by someone somewhere. Again, coming back to content, if you look at it, I know this is looking a little messy, but I would say that read this section first and then you go to the this one. So this is a Maruti Suzuki official dealership, or maybe it's a brand campaign that's running, and they were asking me for a feedback, and I tried entering the feedback. It cannot capture more than 100 characters. Now, it's important for a consumer brand to understand that, number one, how do we capture the user generated content which is getting generated, and number two is what do we do with that. From a personal standpoint, I feel if I could have given a voice, a microphone input, and then that microphone input can easily be transcribed to text internally, that would be able to generate a lot better user generated content. While I'm doing these various meetings with commercial and marketing leaders in the global hospitality space, I see two common themes emerging. One is, how do I understand you? What exactly are users prompting? And the second is content, content, content. It's all about content. We don't have a dedicated eye who's looking after our blog. We've scrapped our blog 2 years earlier. I'll tell you something extremely harsh, but to the point. Either you, that's the business, or someone associated with the business has to be created in some form or the other. It can be in the form of tangible assets. Like, for example, you make the most Instagram friendly room in town. Like, that's a great USP you have for your property. Or maybe it's an intangible asset. Maybe a podcast on the various seasons of the destination you are based at. Maybe a channel showcasing the hidden gems in your destination. I know a client of mine found a few hidden gems when she was there in holidays. So think like a travel influencer when you're thinking like a of a channel which is basically trying to showcase the hidden gems. Maybe you do a workshop kind of a thing. Now, all you have to understand is you need to be producing something. That's how the world has always worked. That's how the economy has always worked. And once you produce something, you need to sell it, right? In a world where there's AI, war, fake news, propaganda, there's so much polarization. The only transactions which I feel may survive this is the transactions which are of trust. If I trust you, I will transact with you. Personifying your business as a storyteller, who over a period of time would gain enough of an audience who may perform few transactions of trust. That's my view on how a hotel can look at omni-channel content creation with the focus of telling unique stories. Sales will happen eventually. LLMs will provide visibility for messy prompts, which are extremely difficult to replicate. Prompt texting should be done with intent in mind. Your engagement on the various digital IPs will give you the score of trust. And as a person, at least I am optimizing for this. That's why you are able to see my handwritten notes, how I'm thinking, and why this is a gap, because I will fill this with a quote which I had shared with a client of mine many years back on how do you think of yourself when you are writing a story for your hotel. Stay tuned to see that one video coming.